my huge fear is we think that there's a gap between the haves and have-nots. It's going to be exacerbated.
Hi, I'm Jason Manship, host of Authentic and Agentic. Every week on this show, we break down what's happening in AI and what it means for how we work, lead, and live. Join me for a human-focused conversation that keeps you ahead of the curve. This is the Authentic and Agentic podcast on the IBJ Media Network. Before we jump into our interview this week, I want to ground us on why this show exists. So Authentic and Agentic is an AI podcast, and I would call myself an AI optimist. I believe that AI can make us more creative, more capable, and more human if we engage with it intentionally. But I don't think optimism means blindness. This show is about leaning into AI while staying grounded in who we are. It's about adopting powerful tools without outsourcing our agency. And it's about asking the hard questions before someone else answers them for us. Because what I'm watching right now isn't just innovation, it's a chess match. Big tech companies aren't just shipping features, they are positioning themselves around data, users, and trust. So who owns the intelligence, who owns the interface, and who gets closest to the human? My stories that I picked today come from OpenAI, Anthropic, and Apple. And these aren't just random headlines. These are moves on the chessboard. So as we talk through them, keep this question in mind. Where do these systems shape us? And where do we still have agency in the agentic world we're leaning into? So the first story is about OpenAI. So OpenAI introduced a couple big things in the last week. Number one, ChatGPT Go. So this is their intro tier below the $20 tier. This is their $8 a month tier. They've been testing it in India. Seemingly it's working. They're getting expansion and growth and people are opting in. So they have this tier called ChatGPT Go, and it's $8 a month. It gives you some controls on privacy. It gives you 10 times more questions and images and various other features. And it allows more people to get into the kind of more private, more personal model of ChatGPT at a lower price point, $8 a month. So, I mean, I don't really think it's about $8 a month. I think it's about reach. I think it's about getting them plugged in and getting you further along. What's interesting, though, is they've also rolled out ads. We've been talking about this for a while. Ads are coming. Ads are here now officially. They're in the free version and they're in the ChatGPT Go $8 a month version. And I think what that's doing is it's giving them some cash flow to kind of work through stuff, but I really don't know that matters as much. I think it matters more that they are getting you plugged in. I remember when Netflix was $8 a month. I think when it came out, it was $8 a month. And it's like, man, it's a no-brainer. It's kind of cool. It adds a lot of value. Like, we'll do it. Now it's what, 25, 26, $27 a month. And they're pumping millions or hundreds of millions into unique content and unique programming. So when I think about ChatGPT, I don't think the play is about an extra $8 revenue line. I think the play is about getting you plugged into their tool, right? They want to become the place where you go. They want to become your thinking tool, right? I'm using the term the default intelligence interface. They want to be the interface where when you're thinking about something or asking a question or want to dig deeper, you start there. And I think at $8 a month, it's a reasonable starting point, even for folks who aren't necessarily using it for business. It's a place where you can justify spending that amount of money. It's like a throwaway number in a lot of ways. And I think it's a way for them to get you hooked and connected. And the more you use it, the more behavioral data they get about you, the better their models get, the more valuable the whole thing becomes. So I just find that super fascinating that they're leaning in here. I think it's interesting that they're pairing the rollout of their cheap tier with an ad-supported model. And I think they're trying to get people connected at the lowest level they can reasonably, which puts some skin in the game for you. Because when you're paying $8 a month for it, you probably will use it more. And so we'll just see how that plays out. But I think it's really important to talk about because I do think that they are trying to become, as I said, your default intelligence interface. Second story here is from Anthropic. I really like these guys. I think Anthropic seemingly at least tries to do the right thing. They're pretty transparent. If you've watched any interviews with their founders or their leadership team, they are trying to talk about the goods and the bads with AI. They're trying to discuss some of the core issues they're seeing. They're trying to, I think in some ways, inject themselves in the conversation. They don't have the funding or the reach that OpenAI or Google do. but they're trying to participate in that conversation. And I think smartly, they're trying to just be honest and build trust. I think a big part of which platform you choose to use and which tools you choose to engage with is going to be which ones you trust. And I think Anthropic is doing a good job of that. So January 15th, they just rolled out their economic index, which is a report they do. There's a big PDF on their website. You can go check it out. But it's less hype. It's more about reality. It's really a snapshot of AI's actual economic impact. And I think it's pretty interesting because what they're stating is that AI is accelerating productivity. I mean, I think obviously, right? I think we would all assume that if you're using it at all personally, it is accelerating productivity. They've seen some roles expand and they've seen some roles shrink. Their claim here is that AI is not taking jobs, but it's starting to replace uncertain value. And I think this is really, really, really interesting and important. So clarity, judgment, and ownership are getting amplified because those that are using AI are adding bigger value in shorter timeframes. I think a lot of the vague or low leverage work gets pressure, right? Hey, what's that person doing all day if this other person over here is producing all of these things? And so I think that's really important. If you're in a job where you've kind of been hiding behind the bureaucracy of the company, right? X layers of middle management, and you can kind of put in 10 actual hours of work every week while you kind of avoiding any big pressure, big issues. I think that AI is going to find that. And I think AI is going to fight that because others are going to become super valuable and super be able to do a lot more, right? And I think that's going to catch up with you. And so I don't necessarily think that this is about AI, like they stated, taking jobs. I think it's about owning the outcomes. I think it's about making decisions. I think it's about having more value in the role that you're in. And I don't think the winners are just using AI. I think they're controlling how it's applied to their actual work. The people that I talk to that are winning are starting to build with AI instead of just using it to answer questions or to, clean up their emails. They're starting to code workflows. They're starting to build automations. They're starting to use it every day in their daily life to speed up how they do things. And again, I think if you're hiding in a corner hoping no one sees that you're not really working very hard, I think that's going to be a very, very obvious place where AI will find you. And I think the people using it will win. The third piece here, third story for this week, this one's really interesting to me because I've been following this for literally decades. So Apple has decided to turn to Google Gemini to help power their AI inside of Siri. So I think the honest read here is that Apple is behind in AI. I think that they have made that claim. I don't think they're proud of it. I don't think they're happy about it. But I think that if you've been following some of the previous stories we reported on, I mean, they've cut their AI lead, brought in new people. I mean, they're actively trying to catch up. I think they are behind and they will probably admit that. So I wouldn't call this a victory for Apple. I don't think they want to turn to Google in this situation. If you think about it, like Apple's historic strength is devices and really the on-device data that only they have. User trust. I think if you talk to anyone that's an Apple person, they trust that brand probably more than most or any other brand that they engage with. Google strengths are distribution, search intent, and really model velocity. They just have a very strong technical background with their X labs and all the various groups that exist inside of the Google ecosystem. They are constantly pushing the ball forward. And I think they have gotten to model velocity faster than others. I've witnessed firsthand. Jim Brown called this out many, many episodes ago, but Google's winning. Google is taking over, in my mind, even ChatGPT. I find myself using Google Gemini more and more every day because it's getting better results. It's faster at creating images. It's just moving in that direction. And I think Apple says, hey, we can't keep up. We can't build this. Let's just lean into Google and have them help us with it. Now, this is why I think this is really wild. So again, I've been following this stuff for decades. Big tech does not share well. These companies do not want to work with each other. They all want to own the data. They all want to own the systems. They all want to own the platforms. They all want to own us and our information. And they block each other from these things. I mean, there's story after story about walled gardens of data that certain companies can't access from each other. And, we've had decades of conversations around monopolies at the congressional level, overseeing some of these companies making deliberate decisions to cut their competitors out. I hope that AI changes some of this. I think that the models, the distribution, the data, maybe even the trust, I think AI forces collaboration and competition, right? I mean, you can't just like sit back and watch. I think Apple fell into that trap, and I think they're behind, and now they have to catch up. But I think that you're going to see more collaboration from some of these big companies working together. Play this out as a chess game. So Apple needs the intelligence. Google needs the trusted surfaces for people to interact with. I don't think it's about cooperation. I think it's more mutual containment. I think they're trying to help each other whilst limiting the speed at which maybe the other is moving. Or maybe it's hey, let's tag team up against Meta and Amazon and some of these other groups that are out there. Who knows? I mean, these guys are playing a chess game that's multidimensional and at a level you and I don't really understand, but it's really fun to watch. And it's really interesting because it actually impacts us day to day. Everyone's trying to stay, all these tech companies are trying to stay closest to you and I, to the human. The more we engage and interact with them, the more data we give them, the more clicks we get them, the more valuable they become. So they're all fighting for our attention, and they're doing it by simplifying the product, giving us better value, and working through that. And so as you see these kind of partnerships shape up, just pay attention. Just pay attention. When you zoom out, I think these stories all tell the same story. OpenAI is racing to own the thinking interface. They want to be the place you go to think. Anthropic is showing you what happens when people lose control of their leverage, and they're trying to stay in the conversation by building trust and being honest and kind of disclosing what they're seeing behind the scenes. Apple and Google are fighting over who owns the user relationship, who actually engages and interacts with that user. And I think here's the real hierarchy. So data feeds the models shapes the interfaces, and interfaces shape our behavior. And whoever shapes the behavior, I think shapes the world. Now, I don't want us all to fear that. I don't want to keep everybody up at night. I think being authentic and agentic in this moment doesn't mean resisting AI. It means engaging with it consciously, understanding the incentives, and choosing where we participate. And I want to emphasize this. We shouldn't give up our humanity by default. AI can absolutely make us better, no question. But we have to stay in the game. We have to keep our finger on the pulse, and we have to watch. And I hope you continue to listen to this show as I pay attention to these facts and figures every single week. Thank you so much. Let's get to our interview.
AI is transforming work, but too many organizations are stuck between potential and practice. Join TechPoint on February 3rd at Community Connect presented by IU Health, where Indiana's employers, innovators, and educators will come together to tackle AI adoption and the experience gap head-on. You'll hear what's working, connect to trusted resources, and leave with insights you can actually use. Reserve your spot now at techpoint.org/communityconnect.
Thanks again to TechPoint for sponsoring this podcast and making it happen. It's been just an absolute blast working with them and helping to try to solve some of the big problems happening here in Indiana. And I'm excited for today's conversation because it kind of leads up to where TechPoint steps in. So TechPoint primarily works with, on the talent side, primarily works with higher education. Today's conversation is with a K-12 educator. And it's not just any K-12 educator. It's someone who's really been on the forefront of innovation for a while. He, I think, has a pretty strong grasp of AI, but not in a blindly optimistic way. I think he sees value in it, but I think he also is asking the hard questions and helping educators and educational systems think through some of that stuff. So my guest today is Don Wettrick. He is an educator. He's been in the classroom for decades. He is someone who teaches innovation. And he has spent years and years helping students build real agency. So instead of teaching just for test scores, Don has really built systems, processes, and curriculums around initiative, creativity, ownership, innovation, and problem solving. He's not been focused on standardized test scores. He's been focused on helping students learn how to be great leaders, how to be great problem solvers in the real world. And so in today's conversation, we're going to talk about how schools should be thinking about some of this stuff, how students should be thinking about some of this, where it's not just about like learning how to prompt well and get to the answer faster. It's about the agency. It's about maintaining your character and your curiosity and your learning as we go. Very excited for today's conversation. Let's get into it. Don Wettrick, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me. Love the studio, by the way.
Yeah, it's getting there. We're excited for it.
I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's right here in downtown Noblesville, just above my board game store, Moonshot Games. So it's home. It's easy.
5 minutes from my house.
That's perfect.
So welcome.
Well, thanks for going out of your way to come join us today.
Could have walked.
Appreciate you. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today.
Yeah.
But primarily, I think the audience is going to be excited to hear about you spend a lot of time in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
You've been enabling and encouraging and kind of pushing young entrepreneurs for decades.
Yeah.
You have strong opinions on AI and AI related things, partially because you see it firsthand, right?
Yeah.
How it's impacting students and their career trajectory and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you a little bit about grit at some point, because I think there's a conversation here about kind of culture and age and the coming of age and all of that. And so really excited to dig in. Let's start in the classroom.
Sure.
Okay. So you spent decades inside schools. Then you went on to found the Started Up Foundation, working with young entrepreneurs around the world. Looking back, what did you see as a teacher that maybe convinced you that the system wasn't preparing kids for the world that you thought they needed to be prepared for?
One, I was always stopped by parents, and they'd say, you know what they should be teaching in today's classroom. And it was usually around money and leadership.
Okay.
You know, we teach our kids the Pythagorean theorem. They don't even know how to balance their own checkbook. I'm like, well, you could do that.
That's right. You can teach them
feel
that.
free.
Sure.
But no, I heard. And then I honestly, I had probably my awakening. I wish I could have kept this email, but when I switched schools, that you can't keep the email. But a friend of mine said, you just got to watch this. And it was a TED Talk by a guy named Daniel Pink.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched it during my lunch break, and you know what it's about. It's like what motivates people. And they're like, some of the most innovative companies just gave their employees 1 day a week where like, what do you want to work on? What do you want to learn? And I was like, why are we not doing that in school? And so really, I think that's the genesis of how I started what I started is I listened to Dan Pink. Then I was naive enough to go, I should give that guy a call. Maybe he'll help me. And I did, and he did.
That's wild.
I didn't know at the time, I guess out of naivete, I didn't know that like maybe some people listening, like, I don't know who that guy is. You know,
New York Times bestselling author.
Or they may hear Mr.
leader.
Pink and think, isn't that guy from Reservoir Dogs?
Sure. Different Mr. Pink.
Right. But, in reaching out to him, I was like, hey, your TED Talk, you kind of mentioned this 20% time model. I should do that. And I kind of want to start my own class. And he thought that was intriguing.
Love it.
And that really was the building blocks of, I got my students to tell me what they wanted to do. Now, I will have to say, I also taught videography and documentary filmmaking.
Okay.
So a lot of my kids were like, oh, there's this thing that you'll be able to be a YouTuber. This was in the first year they started to monetize. So I was in the right place at the right time. Well, we were already reaching out to, like, probably our most famous one was this guy named Zach King. I still think that
he's a big deal.
Okay. He was a sophomore at Biola.
That is
and he was
wild.
calling into my class. And so we had guys like, who are some of my favorites? Him for sure, Casey Neistat, like some of these people that were emerging and getting to be names. They were just starting. And so some of our kids were like open sourcing their learning. And that's eventually what we called the class, innovation and open source learning. And we started off by recruiting kids that like they loved learning. They just didn't necessarily like school.
Fair.
So I had a lot of C&D students that were like wanting to learn how to be a YouTuber or learning how to start a business or whatever. I did not start off with entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I started off with, what do you want to learn and what are you going to do with it? I had one girl that was like, I just want to learn how to patch quilt before my grandma dies.
Great.
Sweet and wholesome and like, let's do that. That was the origins is like, I listened to a guy named Daniel Pink and I was just naive enough to reach out to him and say, would you help me?
Well, you call it naivety. I talk a lot on the show about who's your humble, right? Where a lot of times we don't feel like we belong or we feel like we're the listeners and not part of the audience or part of the show, right?
Yeah.
I remember distinctly when I went to, back in 2010, I went to Silicon Valley and I got a chance to talk to a guy named Ron Conway, angel investor, godfather of angel investing.
Yeah.
And I said to him, what would you tell an aspiring entrepreneur from Indiana? And he said, move to Silicon Valley. That was his one response answer, right? And so I think what I admire about you, and we'll hear this a few more times, I think, in this conversation, you weren't afraid to just pick up the phone and call somebody.
Or my kids.
Sure. empowering them to do it.
Well, I mean, like getting a person, because when I started it, I was in my 40s, I suppose. Getting a yes because a 40-year-old guy asked you is one thing. When the kids start asking, like I got lucky with Dan, or whatever.
No, I think you pushed. You just asked, right?
True. And I think that there was a cute factor there. Like, hey, I've got a couple hundred students that think that you're awesome. But that's kind of when the students started identifying people they wanted to open source learn with.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and they found a sweet spot for like, if they wanted to get a hold of YouTuber, if they had 5 million subs, they weren't going to get back. If they had 200,000, probably.
Sure.
And then also just reaching out to people that were in this sphere. So I wanted to talk to this professional athlete, and they were reaching out to like their professional trainers, stuff like that. It was that kind of learn from the best.
Yeah.
And just the like, hey kids, Mr. Wettrick doesn't know jack about starting a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Who would you want to reach out from? And then they got to understand that with the power of social media and sometimes sending a video note to some of our favorite people, like, hey, there's 30 students here that want to talk to you. Like that worked.
Yeah.
Like about shutdown our school, this guy named video game Ninja.
Oh yeah. Heard of him.
I don't know if he's still.
He's still a big deal.
But like he called into our classroom and because we asked and we sent a video. We were sending videos back and forth on Twitter, like, hey, we want to talk to you. So a lot of fun there. And I think that that's also when the students were like, we affectionately called it the arrogance of belief. The Hoosier humbleness, the antidote to that is like, well, of course you want to talk to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm on a mission.
Yeah.
I'm 16 years old and I want to learn these things. You know them. Of course you want to talk to me. And then that kind of transformed their way of thinking, which was different. If I would have started off that this was an entrepreneurship class, we just would have started a business for the sake of starting a business. I asked them a skill they wanted to acquire or a problem that pissed them off and they wanted to be a solution to. Much different.
I think so. But I mean, and that I love that because it's not balance sheets and P&L statements. It's not, it really is problem solving. And at the end of the day, entrepreneurship a lot of times is about risk. It's about stepping outside your comfort zone. It's about trying something no one's tried before, right? And you're teaching them that firsthand.
And none of those things usually are found in school.
No, for sure. Yeah, no.
Let's fail intentionally this week. You are out of your mind.
That's right. Yeah, people do not like that. I have a story about that I'll share with you here in a bit. So you lived in this. You were in the classroom. You're a teacher. You now run a nonprofit, right? You mentored young entrepreneurs. What do you believe schools should be building in students that they haven't been building? Maybe you've already answered that question in some ways. But
at the end of my journey, I want to explain a little bit about what I have currently.
Sure.
I have an army of teachers that are the Trojan horses for that school. Now, mind you, we've been focusing on high school. We're starting to work a little bit backwards in middle school. But our teachers do 3 things. Number 1, they get students to see problems as opportunities. Once they do, they will never run out of opportunities. I believe that with every fabric of my being. Get a kid that quits complaining, but instead listens to people complain and go, okay, so there's an opportunity there.
Yep.
Number 2, our teachers give the gift of time. A lot of my teachers in our cohort do not even teach business or entrepreneurship. They teach robotics, computer science, engineering. And again, if they said, okay, no, like, you know how to build this thing, what problems is it solving? Instead of, again, start a business. Dope t-shirt line or a food truck.
Right.
No. What problem are you solving? And number 3, in a day and time, this is my favorite part. In a day and time where you say, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
Factually speaking, nobody knows more people than teachers.
That makes sense.
If you get them to ecosystem map their own network, if you've taught for 10 years, you know a couple of thousand people
sure.
that
have gone on to big things.
And if you're likable.
Yeah.
And so the moms and dads and aunts and uncles are in your pipeline, and some of your kids have gone on to be the CTO of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So when a student comes up with an idea, they have the gift of time, like, I think that I'm onto something, and you can use your own teacher Rolodex. That's what's good. If then you can take our Rolodex of our wacky network and we can get into that, like, we can place a lot of students with a lot of influential people and then get them to set up to like not succeed. And that's awesome too.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of this journey, the reason why I went through that whole thing is I want there to be an innovation center at every single school. It is the place you get to go that you've identified something and you can go there. as a destination. Now, the teachers that I work with, I want them to all the chief innovation officer for their school. That is the place where you go and get shit done, period.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that's, I think you answered the question. Like that is what schools are missing, right? In a lot of ways. They just don't, they think like operations, check the box, do the standardized test, like click the box, click the button.
Or even one of my students said this that blew me away when I was at Franklin. When we were doing video, we started at a documentary film fest at the Art Craft in Franklin.
Perfect.
Because one of my students said, I like it that I'm turning this in for more of an audience of one. The audience of one is, did I get an A on this?
That's right.
I watched their doc and gave them an A. They didn't care. They got to see, and this is also then the why they want to be YouTubers. You could put together a 15-minute doc short, and I give you an A, and okay. But a couple thousand people could watch it and go, dude, love it. It's the ability for students to have a destination that they're turning something in that's not for an audience of one.
That's super fascinating. And I didn't really intend to go here, but I've been thinking a lot about this. So when you ask teens now what they want to be when they grow up, many of them still say YouTuber, right?
Yeah.
They want to do that.
Yeah.
And I guess I always kind of shortly, I didn't put a lot of energy into this, but just reflecting on that, it feels like it's kind of vanity. It's kind of celebrity. It's kind of like getting your name out there, right? What you just said actually kind of reels that in a little bit for me and says, you know what, it's more like validation. It's more like what I do matters more so than I'm just getting clicks and likes and thumbs ups.
Thank you. And also because it's a different perspective that it's not the, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
Like I mean this respectfully, and I hope I'm not going to get flagged, but like I have 2 daughters. I don't want you to shake ass.
Sure.
That is not a sustainable business model.
Sure.
Rather, I'm out there looking for a solution or I'm working towards something. And I think that that's the kind of the people that we wanted to build. I don't want the look at me at all costs. I want like, I've identified something here and it's worth looking at, whether that is a documentary or whether that is I'm building something, follow along. Because everybody likes the band before they're cool. And if you follow their journey, you're like, I've known her and seen her and I want to help out. I'm wanting to create more of that.
I love that.
Thanks.
And it really is that perspective you mentioned earlier around the people in the room complaining versus the people who see the opportunity and go out and try to solve that opportunity. Yeah. So I do want to talk about kind of the grit and struggle and some of that, but I think I need to inject some AI into this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
This is an AI podcast, right? So with AI in that conversation, students, educators, all the parts and pieces along the way, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an open floor here to kind of pontificate or think through some of that. Like, what is changing in that landscape? Good, bad, ugly?
All of it.
Okay.
So what do you want me to start with? You want me to build up to a crescendo of positive, or you want me to?
No, I want you to be honest. Right?
No, I mean,
want
because I have my initial thoughts are AI can lure you into a false sense of security that you're awesome and you're not.
Yep.
We're giving them a tool in real time that no one knows where this is going.
It's kind of wild, isn't it?
It is, and it's wonderful at the same time.
Sure.
So, my fear, I'll start with my fear. I am talking to some CEOs and some business leaders that are excited that some of the kids have been more adept with the updates and AI tools than the adults.
Yeah. Which is natural. Usually the kids are more tech.
It is, but we also have this other knee-jerk reaction in education. Like, don't let them use it.
Right.
They're copying, pasting their essays.
They're cheating.
Right.
They're cheating.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
But like my question to those school leaders is, what was the reason you assigned this essay if you already knew the answer ahead of time?
Right.
And do you have time for them to use AI tools that we don't know the answers yet, and we're working towards that? So on the lockdown, are they going to copy and paste the essay? They probably will. I'm sorry.
Sure.
But at the same time,
the smart ones will. Right?
It's so
or maybe
ubiquitous.
the dumb ones, I guess.
It's so ubiquitous now. Because like I go all over the state.
Sure.
This is a really good point. I go all over the state. And at first I was talking to rural schools and I'm like, hey guys, how many of you guys are using, I think right now Gemini is starting to leapfrog.
Yep.
Like how many of you guys, like 90% of the kids are using ChatGPT.
Yep.
And they were like afraid to raise their hand, like, don't And I'm like, you're teachers now.
Yeah, that's right.
How many of you guys are using AI for more than just copying, pasting? And again, I don't know whether they kept like, you're going to bust me, but like very low. Then I go to the schools that you could probably predict.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like we're using it in development and we're vibe coding and we're building at minimum some apps and we're like validating markets. And I'm like, holy yeah.
Yeah.
Now, again, the students that come from predictable schools, it maybe even the school's not providing that even much time, but those students are running with it. My huge fear is we think that there's a gap between the haves and have-nots. It's going to be exacerbated.
I have said this many times.
It scares me.
It should. It should scare all of us.
Because the people that are using it are way out in front already. And those who think that it is for copying, pasting, the Revolutionary War essay, that's all they really are using it for. And I want them to be open to more opportunities than that.
I see that outside the classroom, though. I see that with business owners, business leaders. I see folks that, just hear the word AI and think it's some magic button that just solves all the problems. They don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Right. And then I see others that are actually investing in it, even in some non-traditional tech businesses.
Yeah.
Right? I have a good buddy of mine that makes leather goods.
Yeah.
And I showed him how to use some of these tools, and daggone, if he isn't like advancing his business 10 years into the future in the last 90 days, right?
That's so cool.
It's a real thing. Well, let me talk about this though. So when you think about AI and you think about copying and pasting a paper or trying to get to the end quickly, right, without doing any of the work, right? I think one of the things educators are trying to fight is how do we teach you how to learn, not just how to get to the answer. And AI can short circuit that. And if you don't care and you just want the answer to get that A to get on to the next thing, you really can harm your education. You really can hurt yourself in that process. I am concerned about, and it's not this generation. I don't want to sound like those old farts on the porch complaining about the old generation or the younger generation, but I think grit is a real thing. Yeah. I think that people have a hard time doing the hard thing because as every generation, it gets a little easier, right? And now it's so easy. Yeah. Why do I do any? I mean, we don't even go to the drive-through restaurants anymore. They drive to us. I mean, what's going to happen with our young generation that doesn't have the grit to go out there and actually pick up a shovel?
Those who still have it will win.
I think
I'm not here to humble brag, but one of my favorite parenting moments happened about a year ago. And my two daughters, like, hey, did you do your homework? Yeah. They got a B once. Then I had a son. And it's
a little different.
Love him to death.
Sure.
And but like all of a sudden one day, he's like, I want to take up jiu-jitsu. Why? Like, this is a kid that we joking around, said that he had an allergy and his allergy was hard work.
Yeah.
He was allergic to it. All of a sudden, he's like, I want to challenge myself to do hard things because it gets me into a different kind of mindset.
Love that.
I was shocked. I agree. I think that there's going to be a demand for people that just have offline things to do challenging things in person. I'm hoping that's going to come back. Because I agree, it lures you into a false sense of security. Or honestly, the mirror of societal things is South Park. And when they did their episode on, chat was like fooling Randy and that he was the most genius person ever because it was telling you what the one, like that's the trap. Yeah, it was this trap. So yeah, I mean, people doing hard things, or even if we're going to focus on young people doing hard things, that is something I'm concerned about, which again, why I want a destination that you're there to do real shit. Yeah, period.
I think that's awesome.
And having your butt handed to you, which is also why when we recruit our teachers, I'm like, the old saying is kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So when a real good teacher goes, what do you think of my proposal? It's not good. You didn't think this through.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I quit. I hate you now.
Yeah.
It's the teacher that gives the real feedback and goes, you can do better. Well, chat says this was a good idea. Well, it's wrong.
It's telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Let me ask that about the teachers. I mean, I imagine that in these innovation centers you're working to build, that they get pushback from the this construct of education, right? Like the administration and the classrooms and the teachers and everything else. I'm going to share a little story here, and this is a little maybe more pointed than I want it to be. But I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur growing up. I knew very early on that I was going to school for entrepreneurship. So I toured schools all across the country. I went to Stanford, Georgetown, USC, Berkeley, all these big schools, right?
Wow.
I probably could have got into any of them. And I chose to go to Ball State. At the time, Ball State was the number 4 ranked program in the country.
Right.
And I went there because I wanted to feel the pressure of an entrepreneur in the classroom. You mentioned you can't really teach that in the classroom well, right? The innovation, the risk, that sort of stuff. So there was a professor there, Don Wettrick, who built the program back in the 80s and carried it on, right? And what he did was he figured out how to bottle up that stress of being an entrepreneur, and you would do a senior project and you would pass or fail 2 days before you walked for graduation.
Right.
And it was the most stressful moment you could have in an undergrad setup, arguably across the country. And I signed up for that. Well, 20 years later, I just stepped off the board there because, in my opinion, the program has gone to shit. And I'm not trying to be critical, but what has happened, what I witnessed happen, was they took away the degree of difficulty. They boiled it down to make it easier. And the university was focused on head count instead of quality of outcome. So instead of getting 10 great students to graduate every year that were going to go change the world, now they have 40 students that passed a class.
Right.
And I'm concerned when you think about educators and administrators and legislators, that as we think about AI, as we think about innovation, as we think about some of these things you're working on, man, are we setting ourselves up for failure by trying to make things easier and to kind of accommodate the grit or the lack thereof?
Man, I want to unpack so many things you just said. My cliche answer is yes. This is again why I want to start a dojo like this. This is where those 10 go, not the 40.
Yeah.
Secondly, I usually try to in some ways de-risk the fact that I had the kids self-grade. And the kids that were just focused on just the grade, I'm like, okay, congrats. Now, is this thing really going to live? But as a society, the everyone wins, everybody gets a trophy thing is dangerous. But even something I've been noticing lately on not just AI, but just the social media addiction of I feel successful because my team is winning. No offense to Indiana football.
They're doing fine.
But the amount of people that like, we won. No, we didn't. You sat on your couch and watched Fernando kick ass. Awesome.
Yeah.
Or my guy totally owned these libs online. No, you watch somebody. And I think that that's where the grit is. We get drawn into this infinite scroll and we have AI validating what our beliefs are true. And the grit feels like we're gritty.
Yeah.
I'm out there fighting the good fight. I support this channel.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
My team is winning. And so I think there's going to be this big crash where we collectively realize that we're not doing anything. And I think a lot of people in the back of their mind know, like, I need to wean myself off of these things and go out there and do hard things. Your last point. But until then, we're lured into this like complacency thing that somehow we're successful because we're watching people be successful.
Well, and that's a great point. And so I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. My 10-year-old boy loves everything video game. He could play Fortnite 18 hours a day every single day of his whole life. My daughter loves YouTube and consuming content.
Right.
And as I think about the world ahead, I'm challenging them to consume less and create more. Right. Yeah. And so I actually don't care if you play Fortnite as long as you're streaming it or you're learning how to interact and building. Right.
Yes.
Because to me, it really is that difference of being part. Now, there's a lot of value in being a member of a tribe. Right. I mean, you're part of your group, whatever. Like, I get that. There's a lot of influencers out there that have millions of subscribers that have built something cool and you kind of feel like you're part of it. But the point you just made is real, which is if you just sit on a couch and consume content all day long, you're not adding anything to the universe. Right. You're just taking up space in a lot of ways. And so how do we get you to care harder is the term I use, which I don't know if that's fair, but that's one that I think is important to say. And, you know, I mean, that's what it's hard because as parents, right, we think about how social media has hurt children. I mean, there's a lot of great things that go with it, but there's a lot of bad things that go with it.
100%.
So
Yeah.
the whole concept of, having so much devices all the time and always being on and connected, my phone, your phone, I mean, always, right? We're always on all the time. And so I think sometimes we try to I'm going to take the iPad away from my kid. Maybe that's a solution. Maybe limiting it's a solution. My perspective is let's teach them how to use it to create something.
So love that you said that. I used to, again, my children are now, by the time this airs, probably 25.
It airs Tuesday.
Okay, well, 24 still. It's very soon.
Okay, clear.
So 24, 21, and 16. When these things started to become more ubiquitous, especially with Ava, again, she's 24, we used to have a rule that I would buy you something to scroll with, but you had to use almost as much time. I had a ratio of time to create, not just consume.
Yeah.
And so she started a Littlest Pet Shop YouTube channel.
Great.
I think had a whopping 30 subscribers.
Great.
She didn't care.
It's not about the subscribers.
It's about if you want to watch, because
yeah.
at the time, again, she liked My Little Pony and Littlest Pet Shop stuff.
Sure.
Great, create your own. And if there's some parents listening to this, maybe you have a ratio of a 5-to-1 for every 5 hours you watch this week, you have to create an hour's worth of stuff. And maybe then in creating an hour worth of video editing, everything else is, maybe 10 minutes is worth an hour. But I think that there's a good, healthy balance to that, because if you look at, and you have your students look at your most successful people, please take a look at their work ethic.
Yeah, that's what drives it.
I mean, I don't want to pander, but I know he has a vast team now, but looking at the rise of Mr. Beast is
he outworked everybody.
Stunning.
Yeah.
And so if it's possible for that guy, and I know this isn't a political podcast, but Nick Shirley right now, as a citizen journalist, has caused more people to go, so all you have to do is really just investigate and put a camera on something, despite what political party you are.
Sure.
Exposing things and just having the work ethic to say, record
in the
and
room
put
where it happened,
is, I hope, is that call to action. Or, like we were talking about, unfortunately, you subscribe to that and you feel like you're part of it.
That's right.
But you're not.
Well, I mean, it is validating when you create content that people subscribe to and comment on and participate in. And there's value in building a community that way. I get that.
Right.
But I do think that encouraging the younger generation, I love your take on innovation and entrepreneurship and really getting people outside of this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
Right. And so let me ask a little deeper there. So in your decades, maybe, of education total time, I mean, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have social media, we didn't have AI.
Yeah.
Looking at those things through the lens of a perpetual 16-year-old or 15-year-old or whatever group you're kind of starting to talk to.
Yeah.
Because every year the new batch of 16-year-olds coming through, right?
Yep.
What are they seeing today that they didn't see 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
One, I think sometimes they do have the perspective of their parents of a lot of parents now live through the Wikipedia didn't make me a great writer. I was teaching English when Wikipedia, it's going to kill writing and kids they're going to copy and paste everything. I think some of these kids know that it's not just copy and paste.
Yeah.
I think that they're definitely more worldly.
Okay.
I think that they're way more in tuned. And this is the thing that I love and hate. They definitely can point out problems.
Okay.
We are filled with feed of
all the things that are
anger.
Going wrong. Yeah,
right.
For sure.
I just want to turn that switch of okay, so what sayest thou?
Well, and that hits our generation too. I'm going to just pontificate for a second. Yeah. We, like you mentioned, this isn't a political podcast, but one of the things I tell folks is when you're upset about the politics, go do something about it. Yeah. Don't be a keyboard warrior just bitching in the comment section.
Yeah.
Go run for office, go support someone, go hold a rally, go do something about it.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that more and more people are starting to get that and starting to realize that's part of civic engagement in some ways.
Especially if we can reach out. I don't like the I owned you.
Yeah,
I had this discussion with my own kids. I'm as soon as you start being divisive, just know that a lot of things are going to be thrown your way.
Yeah.
People that are trying to make things better, genuinely, you're still going to get some assholes going after
Yeah, people be peopling.
But I think that the students now are more aware of things that are not right. I think that they have tools to amplify that. It's just making the crossover of, okay, now it's your turn, which is why I love it if it's in school. The most two precious commodities we have is our time and our network.
It's real.
If your time is like, hey, you've got 45 minutes today or an hour and a half this week to work on something, I just expect something and you have to lay out what it is and it's positive, then you can use school resources. It's got to probably can't be too toxic, otherwise school's not going to let it support.
For sure.
And I really used to have like a rule of thirds when I was teaching this. Rule number 1 is, what new skill are you going to acquire? Kind of rule number 2 was, how are you going to utilize it? And number 3 is, who does it benefit other than you?
That's real. That's an important question to ask.
Well, I mean, like, I just want to build something for my own selfish interest. I'm not going to approve it.
Yeah.
But if some student goes, hey, I've realized that our Humane Society, actually I'm in the wrong county because the Humane Society of Hamilton County kicks butt. But like, hey, I live in a place where it's a kill shelter.
Yep.
I'm going to acquire the skill of video editing and do a video expose, and it benefits more than me, that I want to eventually have a GoFundMe for okay, approved.
Great.
Because those 3 things means that I'm going to take a resource of time, maybe even the school's cameras, and the teacher's network of like, who should I talk to?
Yeah.
Who would help me?
Leverage that network, yeah.
And then if we're really, really, are they hitting the standards? If you let a kid submit a proposal of, I want to learn how to video edit and write a script and be persuasive, and you're going to hit standards.
I think that's awesome.
Now, here's where AI comes in. You're going to have a decent idea of what your script's going to say.
Yeah.
Yes, Claude's going to write a better script for you to improve it.
Yep.
So, with these new tools, like it's there. And honestly, if it's for good, then I'm here for it.
Well, and let's hit on that for a second. So in a handful of guests I've spoken to so far, talking about the concerns with entry-level jobs, right? So now let's play this out. I go to college, I get a degree in fill in the blank field. I go to get my first job after college.
Yeah.
And you and I both believe that college isn't for everybody, right? But let's just play that out. I go through it. I go to get my first job. A lot of companies today, and that's today, not 5 years from now, aren't hiring entry-level jobs because they're looking at it and saying, well, a mid-level person with AI can do that job. Right. And I don't have all the baggage of that kid coming in that I got to deal with, right? And so how do we encourage and empower? So I think there's a couple thoughts. One is you teach them how to build and they can go do their own thing, right? Or 2, they walk in more equipped if they're learning how to use these tools day one.
This is going to be my favorite segment of this show.
Let's go.
Because I preach this. Last year's finals, we had a lot of really important guests be in the audience. And I won't say this person's name, but he's a prominent CEO. And he pulls me outside on like halftime, the intermission. And he goes, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And I was like, I know, right? And again, this is the best of our best. It's like 20,000 kids whittled down to our top 10. And well, the average team is 2.5, so top 25.
25, yeah.
And he goes, I would hire any of them. He goes, respectfully, Don, I hope that they become entrepreneurs when they turn 30. I want them to work for me right now.
Yeah.
And he says, and this is my quote of the year for 2025. He goes, I have time to teach any of them the technical skills to work at my company. I do not have the time to adjust their shitty attitude.
It's a real thing.
And he goes, if they walk in, because everybody knows our whole thing is see a problem as an opportunity. He says, any student that would want to come in and say, what are you guys struggling with? I like to make problems go away. You're hired. And ironically, the hiring mid-level people that may be in their 30s, just flip the script.
Sure.
As an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old, I've been working with AI tools before the 30-year-old has, respectfully.
Yeah.
And just the wow factor of like, yeah, I make problems go away, bud.
Yeah, throw something at me.
And those hiring bosses will see themselves in that kid. I think this is the reason why we built such a network, is that we have reached out to people that they were that 16-year-old. And either they're saying yes to me or they're saying yes to the 16-year-old. Matter of fact, last 2 years, both our governors have pointed out that like all the kids in their pitch deck show their advisory board, and it's not moms and dads and aunts and uncles.
Yeah,
it's an impressive, like,
I bet.
Like, how did you get
that guy on your board? That's
and
wild.
it's because these people going, I was you, kid.
Yeah. And I would bet on those folks all day long. John, our friend John Wexler likes to say that your attitude defines your altitude in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is having that, I can solve this, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I think teaching it young is important. I think about generational side of this. Like my parents went to high school and either went straight to work and worked in a job their whole career and set aside pension and got Social Security and retired.
Yeah.
Or they went to college and kind of followed that same footprint. And then I grew up in what I'd call maybe the free agent society or generation, right? Where I'll take a thing for a couple of years and kind of just keep leveling up to get there.
Right.
Now we have almost like the creators or the influencers group. I mean, I don't know if that's you probably have a better worldview on how all these pieces fit together, but I mean, it does feel generationally different.
And yet both of those need teams and stopgaps. The traditional guy needs that 18-year-old that they know how to build content and they know how to build audiences better than and at the same time, like some of the new emerging people, they've taken notes on what didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to be respectful, but like Hawk to a Girl taught us a lot.
Sure.
About how to lose people really fast.
For sure.
And I think that it was like Gary Vaynerchuk was the one that introduced to me the dichotomy of attention and trust.
Yep.
Getting attention is easy, especially if you're hot.
Yeah.
Establishing trust is longevity.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that the students maybe have understood virality. And they know how to Mr. Beast it, kind of, as long as the grit's there, to your point.
That's a real thing.
But but I'm doing it for trustworthy things. I'm trying to build this. You've got my attention by the fact that you know how to build attention.
Yeah.
You've earned my trust because you're not going to screw this up. And even if you do screw it up, you're going to be transparent about it. It's those opportunities that I think are abundant.
As I had an interview recently with a good friend of mine who's a prominent attorney here in Indianapolis. And he talked about how I asked about the new attorneys coming out of law school. They're joining the firms, like these big mega firms, right? And he said that a lot of the concern they have in their industry with AI is discernment, right? It's the fact that I've got 15 years of experience, and so I can read through the hallucinations and the garbage, and I can tell. What's interesting to me in this conversation, Don, as I'm thinking about it, is it feels like not having kind of that baggage of knowing you're right or 15 years of history, right, could be a valuable component when you're trying to move fast.
Yes.
Right? I mean, like, oh, that's okay. I'll just fall on my face and get up and do it again. Right? And that's not comfortable for a lot of business leaders or for a lot of people in corporate America, so to speak.
Totally agree. And I think that also a lot of the more savvier young people also know the power of A/B testing.
That's real.
Like this video performed horribly and I got a lot of negative comments. Okay, I'm going to self-correct. And them, like, again, watching the people that have been successful over time can take those lessons that the average 50-year-old CEO's not.
Yeah.
Because it's a new thing.
Even at a more micro level, like I was talking to Sally Reasoner, she's the VP of talent at TechPoint.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when people were hiring software developers, they cared what language you wrote. Yeah. Right? Are you a Java developer? Right. Are you a basic developer? Whatever it was at the time. Now the language is almost irrelevant. Mm-hmm. It's about knowing how to solve problems.
Yes.
And I think that's the encouraging part for me. If you learn how to I tell people that AI is like having an Iron Man suit in your pocket. Yeah. Take it out and put it on. Right? Yeah. And if you know what you're doing and you spend time, effort, and energy tweaking and learning and growing and breaking and fixing and trying, you can do some pretty crazy stuff. And you don't have to be a 40-some-year-old guy with tons of experience. You just need to be willing to jump into the fire.
And can you also then collaborate with the team in a real way?
That's real.
I just, in education, we got to these like really cliche things that unfortunately we didn't think about, like the whole, the C's, the collaboration, communication. Like, okay, can you communicate? Really, can you? Can you work with the team? No, seriously, can you? And I think that's where we have some work to do. We've spent so much time in isolation, but the person that really can, even though they're using their AI tools, they scrub it against you and what you have found. And then, like you said, I think the word of 2020-26 is discernment.
I think so.
This is what I'm being told by my,
Sure.
LLM. Well, this is what I'm being told. Okay, but here's our audience. The reality is being able to work through that in a real way and not just people that are just online. Well, according to my calculations, my Claude says we should be doing this. Well, figure it out. It's not 100% yet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, we were joking on the front end of this that we could probably just sit here and talk for 5 hours. I'm going to try to land this plane, and I'm going to try to do it in a way that maybe has a few more specific questions that are that I'd like your opinion on. So I just read a story about the state of Ohio has implemented some policies at the statewide level for education. And so what they're thinking about is, instead of just, in Indiana, we have guidance, right? The Department of Education has put out some AI guidance and said, here's how you as teachers and educators should be thinking about AI. It's very broad strokes. It's very high level. I think it's fine, right? I'm not one for overregulation.
Yeah.
But what Ohio has done is said, here is the state of Ohio's kind of framework for AI, responsible AI use in the classroom. Dear school district, either adopt this or come up with your own, but you have to have it done by July 1st, right? Talk to me about whether that's a terrible idea, a good idea. I'm throwing this at you right on the spot. I'm just curious.
I think if it's a living, breathing, editable document, it's a great idea.
Okay.
Start now.
Yeah, because there's stuff we don't even know.
Right. If they think that they were going to have a definitive plan for July, that's a LOL moment for sure. But if it's like, give us your best shot and let's just keep tweaking it, freaking great idea.
Well, what I liked about the concept was that they're forcing you to focus.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know, in education, in any business, there's always a million problems to solve. And the one that gets your attention is the one that's the squeakiest wheel or the hardest to deal with or whatever else, right? And so I can sit here as a guy hosting an AI podcast saying AI is important in education, but so are 72,000 other things. And how is a school district, how are groups going to find what to care about?
I disagree. This is the only time I've disagreed with you.
Let's go.
So are other things. No, I think a lot of the conferences have been AI.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So there's
a ton of snake oil salesmen.
Sure.
Holy cow. Everybody right now is an AI expert.
Sure.
Because, I threw a couple prompts out there and I created a really cool
good for you.
Disney video on Sora. But I say it is the most dominant thing that is being talked about in education, for sure.
But do they know how to deal with it?
Those who try and can reflect and can discern, yes. And so therefore they should be on July 1st putting together their best proposal. Just like anything, you're going to have your early adopters and the schools that are going to be able to beat their chest and saying, we're pushing forward. But they're also going to be the ones that are most criticized.
For pushing forward.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I mean, that comes back to the haves and the have-nots.
I totally agree. I'm going to name drop one time.
Yeah, go.
I spent some time with Gary Vaynerchuk, and I did a podcast with him. Mm-hmm. And after it was over, Gary, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but he was pretty nice until we pressed end record, and he goes, I don't know what the F you're doing. And he goes, and this is before I started the foundation. Okay. This was my class. And he goes, schools don't want to change, bud. And he goes, no offense, you won the school lottery. You had a superintendent, cool idea, and you had a principal that wasn't jealous that you were out here talking to me.
Wow.
And I'm like, true on both accounts. He goes, he's like, that's not common. Now, this was 10 years ago. And he goes, case in point, how long would it take for you to convince, let's just say his son wasn't in high school. He goes, how long would it take for you to convince my high school to have a class like yours? I'm like, realistically, a year's worth up of building a relationship, and then there's kind of just 2 buying cycles in a school year. So anywhere between a year and a half to 2 years. He goes, right. So if my son was a junior, he's just screwed.
Yeah, he missed.
And he goes, you won the school lottery. And so I kind of took offense to it. And I'm like, yeah, but Gary, you should just work with the parents. And I'm like, true, but the kids that I would like to work with, their parents don't care from the get-go. I'm like Gary also won the parent lottery. He speaks highly of his mom. And I'm like, I'm looking for the kid that is resilient and gritty and doesn't have a parent that goes, this is important. He goes, touche, but schools don't want to change. I've been dedicating my life to get schools to go, yeah, I see what you're doing. Yeah. And now they're seeing our AI tools that they may have the ability to reflect and go, we're going to adopt this tool. There's going to be mistakes made along the way because that bravery and that discernment is going to allow them to win to where people and schools of business.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Property values will go up in those locations because the parents that are concerned will say, I'm moving there because there's better opportunities. The ones that want to fall off are going to fall off, and I pity them.
And that comes back to my college education, right? Like I chose to go to this school, and I could have gone to Stanford or Berkeley or other schools. Would have changed my whole life trajectory, right?
Yeah.
But I chose to go there because of that program.
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't send my daughter there.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't, like, for that program at least. If she
Right.
has other interests that match or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, I think it's important to be thinking about that stuff, and boiling stuff down just to make everybody happy leads to the least common denominator, and you don't create exceptionalism, right? You're not building something great.
But where we both land is that right now, if you are a parent listening to this, get your kid to start using AI tools to come up with some solutions. At the dinner table, what did you see today that annoyed you?
Yeah. I had a friend of mine who listens, a good friend of mine that texted me and asked if I could have lunch with her high school son.
Yeah.
Good college son now. And he was thinking about coming back and doing an internship somewhere. And his questions were, what should I do? What kind of company should I look for? How do I find a good company?
Yeah.
And the next time I met with him, he said, you know what? I think I'm just going to start my own business. He goes, I like the idea of working for others because I don't know it all, right? But I honestly think I'm going to learn faster if I just go do it. Yeah. And I said, so what are you going to do? And he said, well, I just sat down with ChatGPT and spent some time thinking through stuff. And he's like, so I'm going to launch a power washing business. Yeah. He's like, because I know the capital requirements on the front end. I can pay for that myself, right? It's all grit and hustle. And if I do a good job and build some systems, it's all about communication, right? And building schedules. And he's like, I think I can come home for the summer and start to build something. And I was like, dude, that is where it's at right there. That was pretty cool.
And I want to do a yes and. First of all, salute to that young man.
Yeah.
But also, in their pursuit of, if they found something, they might start looking at organizations that they tackle that. Like, look, you know this. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart.
That's right.
Less than 10% of people want to be entrepreneurs. I know that. We had, I think, 24,000 kids going through our program this year. Less than 10% want to actually be. But those who want to be entrepreneurial, that is to say they can identify from something within and saying, like, I got a good idea maybe for the company.
Yeah.
Man, gosh, they're the most hireable person.
100%. I mean, I want people to help me solve problems, not just check boxes.
Absolutely.
It's a very real thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know that I have any other, the other questions I was going to ask were just around advice for the next generation, but I think you pretty much nailed all that. You're active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You've asked me and others, I think, to hold you accountable to starting up a podcast again. So I'm going to mention it here just so you have some accountability on it. So you had a podcast, started up?
Yeah, 7 years.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
Honestly, it was born out of the fact that we had people calling into our class.
Yeah.
And the kids were like, did we record? My favorite, when it really hit critical, we had Tim Ferriss for 2 hours.
Yeah. 4-hour work week.
Right. And so the kids were like, I want to let my dad listen to that. Did we record it? I'm like, actually we did. And like, I just started to realize that a lot of people were saying yes because their audience was younger and they're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And in some cases they wanted like probably the guy that goes, I like, yes, I'll do your podcast, but I want your students to ask me some questions too. That was Jocko Wilnick.
Yeah.
So we had some really good guests on for sure. And the primary audience was probably more teachers and students that are entrepreneurial minded. But eventually, much like this conversation, it kept getting broadened out and of people that was like looking for opportunities and what is next. And so, it was great. And then I tried, had no idea how difficult it is running a nonprofit. So I did not do it for 2 years.
Sure.
And then our board is like looking at the past Rolodex and people are like, can you go back to
doing that again?
Again. And so I finally said, yes, in 2026, we'll launch this thing. And they're all kind of looking at their watches.
Hey, guess
like,
what? It's January.
Yeah, I know. So.
Well, that's good, though. I mean, I think setting some level of accountability up and pushing the button. I mean, I think there's something to be said about just doing it.
Yeah.
Right? When I decided to do a podcast, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I'd never done one before. I've always been the behind-the-scenes guy. Yeah. Never been front of camera, have no interest in being front of camera.
Yeah.
I just wanted to create these conversations.
Yeah.
To me, it was just about like, there are really interesting people out there doing really interesting things and people don't know about it.
And that, yes, my top 5 podcasts that I've produced weren't my biggest names.
Sure.
Not even close. And it was I've got these wonderful relationships and friendships now with people that I just discovered what they did. And then I was like, dude, can we just talk about it? And so, it was great.
Well, I love that. Well, I am going to remind you that you're launching a podcast in 2026.
Okay.
I think it's going to be great. I listened to a handful of your old episodes.
Yeah.
You have had some whale of guests. I just listened to your Adam Carolla episode. That was hysterical. So, I mean, you did some really cool stuff there. And it's really, really neat to see the impact you've had on tens of thousands of kids over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, what a cool opportunity. And I love that you saw a problem, and instead of complaining about it or trying to like fit inside the system, you just said, we're going to go build something.
Yeah.
And you just went out and did it.
Yeah.
And you did it right here in 5 minutes from here, which is crazy.
Yeah, which is why the harder part. Everybody wants to do a podcast. My podcast back then, literally, I would close the door and it was shot inside my walk-in closet. So, we're going to bump it up a notch.
It's easy. It's not as hard as you think it is. I figured it all out. I mean, we still have a long way to go, but I mean, we have cameras and lights and stuff. But I mean, it all came from Amazon.
I know.
It just took a couple of YouTube videos and some button clicking.
Yeah.
It's as our podcast grows, we're adding new features every week, and we're learning how to get better lighting and the TV behind us, and we're learning.
And Josh Cecil makes everybody look and sound better.
He sure does. So. He's a special treat.
He's a special treat.
So just a little quick backstory there. Josh, who's producing this show, is a great friend of mine. I've worked with him for a while. He actually took over, I think, for you at the school when you moved on to start it up. So Josh is a great friend. We were reminiscing a little bit when you came in the room. So
Middle West, check him out on Spotify.
That's right. He's kind of a big deal. But thank you to to Josh for putting this together, and thank you, Don, for coming on. How do people find you? So you're outside of listening to your upcoming podcast.
Boy, it used to be Twitter, and it's just turned into a political hellscape. So I kind of avoid it now. LinkedIn's probably the best way.
I've noticed you've been doing quite a bit of posting lately on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Again, the board wants me to return back to the being social part and getting.
Well,
back
Don,
out there.
I looked at your LinkedIn this morning, and I was like, this dude has like 20,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, so you should do something with that. With great power comes great responsibility. So get out there and do something with
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you again for coming in. I appreciate you, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
As we wrap up this conversation, I keep coming back to a few things. There are some pretty hard problems to solve as it relates to AI and K-12. I don't think the school systems, I'm not sure all educators, the administrators, I mean, people just don't really know what to do with it right now. And it's pretty interesting to watch because as an employer, I don't really care that you used AI to get the answer. In fact, as a capitalist, like I want it done as fast as possible, as quick as possible, as cheap as possible, and as correct as possible. And so teaching people how to use these tools, I think is really important, especially as we're, growing up and learning how to build, right? The education system is designed at its core to teach people how to get jobs, right? To teach people how to be productive in life. And I think there's a real challenge there between fighting tools like AI and figuring out how to leverage them and teach people how to use them. And we're stuck in this weird spot where, educational systems are slow moving and there's a lot of top down kind of bureaucracy and process. And so you can't expect it to just work instantly. What I love is that there are people like Don Wettrick in the world who are out there challenging the status quo, who are saying, hey, we're going to go lean into innovation inside the classroom. He mentioned that, he had an opportunity inside of a school system that was kind of a unicorn, right? That's not a common thing. But I think that the school systems that choose to lean in here, the school systems that drive into innovation, the school systems that connect with Don and in his group at Started Up Foundation and lead innovation are the ones that are going to empower their students to be successful in the real world. And I think that's a couple of things we talked about here are really important. This isn't about just like AI and automation and tech and all that. We have got to lean in on continuing to teach the students about agency, about authenticity, about learning, right? They've got to be able to stay plugged into how they got to the answer and not just that they got to the answer. But I do think that in the classrooms and the projects and in the moments where the educators can lean in, I think teaching folks how to responsibly use AI to learn faster and build bigger and explore ideas, I think is something we've got to solve for. But we cannot outsource curiosity and judgment and ownership and character. This conversation to me isn't a call to slow down innovation. It's a call to raise humans who can handle it. And that's why I think, again, voices like Don's matter so much right now, not because the future isn't coming, not because we're trying to be too futuristic either, right? It's about leaning in where we can and having an impact on the people inside of our sphere of influence. Teachers have such a profound impact on their students. Educators and those building these systems and platforms have a way to build generational value by teaching people correctly. And so I think it's time for hard decisions and hard conversations. So until next time, stay authentic, stay agentic, and don't give up your agency along the way.